issues. All right, Nick, what is up, dude?
What up, man?
Oh man! First of all, I apologize for being late here. I had a couple of things that popped up all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, I got to deal with this shit really quick. So I apologize for being late.
Yeah, my bad, man. My Wi-Fi is terrible right now.
Okay. If you are on your phone, if you turn off the Wi-Fi, sometimes the connection gets a little bit better. But I mean, data and all that stuff too. So I mean, it's not a huge deal either way. It doesn't look bad right now though, by any means.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
Sick. Okay, dude. First of all, I have to say thank you very much for taking the time once again. Here on Growing on You Live, we're going to be digging into some of the earlier days, some of the fun things, that kind of inspired us to the path that we are today. And digging, of course, into some of some things with Power Trip, the band, and and what's new, my man. So thank you first of all. And we're going to start off, as far as bringing us back to, earlier days of a band or a song or an album that you love. And who introduced you to these things in the early days?
As far as metal or just music?
Music in general, where it all started, earlier memories for you.
Well, I guess growing up with my stepdad, he was a huge music fan. My mom was into a lot of the pop music from the 80s. She was like Michael Jackson, Tina Turner, Whitney Houston, a lot of that stuff. She was a ballad person. She was like Bolton fan. So she had a lot of tapes. So I was always digging through those. But my stepdad was into a lot of rock music, specifically U2. I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of haters for that. But I'm a diehard U2 fan. So he was always basically putting that Rattle and Hum movie on over and over again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I loved it, man. I mean, it was really appealing to me, and I grabbed onto it quickly. I think it was the live performance in general. I was just like in awe of Bono capturing the audience back then, and how many people were just grown to that. So,
Sure.
that's kind of where it started for me, as well as. He was a big REM fan, so Monster was playing a lot when I was a kid. But we could talk about how that kind of ramped into the metal thing as we go, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, was that something too where that was, like inspiration from him? Did he have certain things like earlier Sabbath or any sort of like metal where like that kind of started transitioning into?
It's funny, like he wasn't he wasn't a big metal guy. Honestly, I think he was like it was like mid 80s rock and roll and on, but there was a few 70s bands that he liked, like Pink Floyd, big Pink Floyd fan. He was drawn to like Dark Side of the Moon, so I was listening to that when I was a kid. Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, stuff like that. But I feel like the metal stuff, wasn't as into that stuff, but he was into like the heavy alternative. Like when as I grew up, with him, the grunge scene got bigger and bigger in the mid '90s, and here come the Alice in Chains, obviously, the Stone Temple Pilots, we can go to proto grunge if you want, but the big band, the Nirvanas, I could list them all, but
Sure.
that stuff I feel like got me into the more heavier side of music. I feel like.
Okay. Well, was that friends or, different cats at school that you had met that introduced you to that, or how was that coming across you?
With metal?
Like the grunge scene and all that.
Oh yeah. I was young. I was born in '89, so the grunge scene was, I guess, happening in real time when I was just a kid, like a
Sure.
baby. But in the late '90s, it was still, like Stone Temple Pilots took off later, I feel like, in the grunge scene, and they were kind of more the 90. Core was 92, I guess, but they had really good albums like 97. So
Hmm.
I was getting, I guess when I was like 8 to 10 years old, I was actually kind of absorbing that, and I'd say more 10 years old probably, but yeah, I was kind of absorbing that, and I was like, this kind of aggression as I get more into music was starting to get me more interested in listening to heavier things. which is obviously
Sure,
anybody's going to
sure.
tell you, like Metallica probably is the first band that, I mean, everybody says it, but it's true, man. I mean, they were so big and in your face everywhere you went that it was like hard not to notice.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just it was
I
just
mean,
like nonstop. So
what's your take on the Black Album? I mean, everybody always has that where it's like such a dividing line. Was that a break moment for you where you started to kind of started phasing off into other things, or were you still into the band when they started getting into that style?
I mean, Black Album came out when I was 3, so uh,
Yeah. Yeah, touche.
I
I was born in
yeah
'88, so I mean, I'm right
yeah
there
we're the
with you as
same age,
far as
so
that.
yeah yeah.
Okay.
I'd say the Black Album obviously was the album that I was hearing all the time. Inner
Yeah, yeah.
Sandman and Sad But True, and those songs were on the radio like
Hmm.
like they had just come out, even though it was 10 years later. So yeah, I mean that's the album that I first heard for sure. I mean it's not by any means my favorite record uh, now that I'm more well versed in music, but
Right.
uh, I mean obviously it was a huge record for that band and helped them grow into the biggest band ever. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, hard not to respect it, I guess.
For sure. It's so funny how like that band, like that's that one kind of dividing line, and kind of mentioning like on our age and when we were born, in transition to when that album actually came out. It was like that was an album that I was hearing a lot from the band, to where like my brothers are playing it in the house and I'm hearing it from that, but then all of a sudden they start scaling back and they're like, no, you have to hear the stuff beforehand, and then you listen to
Yeah,
that, you're like, oh, okay, now I get it.
yeah. You're like we're done with this. Let's go backwards.
Right. So how about now yourself being able to hold a physical copy of an album that you've played on? Bring us back to the first time buying or receiving an album your own. As far as a CD or maybe a cassette tape. What was that first thing that you remember getting?
This is funny. I mean, if you would be honest here, the first thing I ever bought with my own money, music, physical format, was Big Willie Style on tape. I think I was.
Yes,
I mean, honestly, that's the honest truth. I could tell you like something cool, or
love
it
it.
is cool, but
It is
I could tell
cool.
you something, rock and roll or something. But no, that was the one. That was the first piece of music I ever bought. Uh,
So sick.
I think the first CD I ever bought was I think I bought 3 CDs at the same time, and it was Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, Nirvana, Nevermind, and there was one other one. Uh, Probably was terrible. We don't even get into that, but those two.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. And did you have like a local? I don't know if it was even like a record shopper, but did you have like a Sam Goody at a local mall, or was there a spot
Yeah.
that you'd regularly go to as far as getting your stuff?
Yeah, yeah. We had a CD warehouse. I don't know how big those are all over the
Oh,
place,
okay.
but
I've heard of them. I don't think we had them up
I
here,
think they
but
were I think they were big down here, but we had a bunch of them actually. But there was one in particular that I would go to that I think it was kind of the big one they had, the one that all the real like music nerds worked at. So you'd
mm,
walk in and they would like the coolest thing about it was you'd walk in looking for something or maybe not, and they would just be like, "Hey, what do you like?" And you tell them, and they would just like basically teach you a bunch of things about different genres, and you'd end up picking out something you never heard before and go home with it and like it or not. Most of the time, like it. So that was a
yeah,
cool experience as a kid, getting to have people that were older and more well versed in music kind of teach me a lot of things about different kinds of music. So that
yeah,
place was super
absolutely.
sick, and I wish it was still around. There's one left, but I haven't been to it, so I'll have to check it out sometime.
Okay, okay, hell yeah. I mean, and kind of continuing on that, as far as stepping in, maybe even bring us back to a time where you walk in and you solely chose something off of the cover art, something that just kind of stood out to you. What was it? Something that panned out? Was the art as cool as what the music ended up being, or was it a waste of that $20 that you had for allowance that week?
Yeah, yeah, they were like $30 back then. I feel like
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, they were a lot.
They're- Yeah, I was like, dude, what am I buying a DVD collection or something? But
Right.
no, man, I don't honestly know if I ever did that. I've
Okay.
thought about it, and I'm just like, I don't think I ever bought something just off the artwork. Uh,
Okay.
but I mean, if I did, again, probably wasn't good. So, because I would
Yeah.
remember it, I feel like. But
It's
but
a
no, man, I don't think I had anything on that one.
okay. And you
I
touching
mean,
on, even like the local music shop and like the workers that were there, like that was always something cool where, I remember feeling like being young, you're like, man, how do these guys know so much? How do they know all these bands? And where did you hear of such as, like that was always such a cool experience, walking in and kind of, like a nowadays Spotify or something that's like electronically done, but somebody's picking
right.
your brain and what's the stuff that you like, or are you into thrash, the kind of vocal type, and oh, check this out, so
Yeah.
that was definitely, I mean, it still exists, I mean, with record shops being open nowadays, that's still there, so it's a cool experience for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you go to some record stores still, and there'll be people that want to help. I feel like nowadays people don't want to be talked to, so people try to leave you alone.
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
you
yeah,
walk in a record
touche.
store, it's like if I don't have to talk to anybody in this place, I'm even better, you know. So yeah, but no,
What,
there's some spots still, but yeah.
yeah, okay, okay. What about going to your first show, whether it was like a big bill or something that you discovered your local music scene? How did that come about as far as seeing your first live concert?
First live concert, I was 10 or 11, and we have the Texas State Fair here. It's a big deal. They had these giant concerts back then, and my dad took me to ELO and Three Dog Night, and
Whoa!
yeah,
Hell
yeah,
yeah!
and that was really cool because I think at the time I'm young and I'm not I'm remembering a lot of the things that I would nowadays, but it was like just the production, the performance as a child, like as a young child, like watching that, I was like, this is insane. Being able to watch this in person versus on like a DVD or VHS tape or something as like a young kid. So it was kind of
Yeah.
just cool to watch that type of performance like in a large setting. Um, and that's what I mostly remember about that. But for sure, that was the first concert I ever went to. Um,
Okay.
and there's some
That's
stuff I'll
awesome.
never forget for sure.
Yeah. Okay. How did that transition into, seeing local shows or like a local music, scene? I know that you've mentioned as far as your playing guitar was a little bit later in life, but as far as did you, attend a lot of local shows or anything within that realm?
Yeah, yeah. I started going to like tours, like a lot of alternative tours. New metal was huge, so I mean those were some of the biggest tours back then when I was getting a little bit older in my 12 and 13-year-old years where you think you know everything. So
Hmm.
uh, I was going to some of those tours, and then I think as I started meeting people at some of these shows and getting a little older, that kind of transitioned into wanting to just be a part of music in general, like shows in general around me. So I think I transitioned into kind of this is when metalcore is getting really popular, and through that found hardcore. So it's kind of
Okay.
this, it was really fast. Back then it feels like it's so spread out. And then you think about it and you're like, man, this all happened in like 7 months. It's growing up so fast, I'm 14 and I'm like at like a Marilyn Manson show or something, and then I'm 15 and I'm at like a Cold World show or something. Or it's like it happens
Yeah,
so
yeah,
fast. So
yeah. Okay.
um, yeah, but
Where so touching on playing, where did that come into mind? As far as like, man, I want to pick up a guitar and maybe try this out and see. It kind of sounds like that was a pretty fast process and just picking up and ripping into everything. How did that first come about? You playing?
yeah, I was I was doing like vocals in a bunch of bands like in really early in high school, and I think we were always looking for guitar players, and it was like, man, I can't find any, and And I think like as I got a little older, I was like, man, I'm just gonna do this. Like I'm gonna play guitar and see what I can do because I can't find any guitar players that want to play anything cool. So it was I want to do I want to do a hardcore band, and everybody else wants to do like uh, you know, it's like Blood Brothers or something. I don't know. So it was like I
Okay.
don't want to do that. I want to do something cool, and I think that's kind of where I was like, I'm just gonna learn guitar, and
Yeah. Okay.
That's it, man. It was pretty quick. Um, I started playing guitar at like 17, which is most people it got most people start playing at a really really young age, but it was late for me, man. I mean, it was not something that I was super familiar with actually doing, more so just being a fan of music in general. So it was an
Hmm.
interesting time of my life, just kind of doing this, just taking off with playing guitar. But uh,
Sure.
yeah, so
Now, when
it,
you were going into, you initially mentioned doing vocals in bands. Did you have like certain things in mind that you were kind of fashioning, when you were practicing, or like kind of like the approach that you were having from bands that you were looking up to in doing that?
yeah, I think
Or what do you? Of course you do. Jesus.
yeah,
But what were influences, I should ask?
yeah. Well, the first like big show for me is that really changed my life was seeing Hatebreed. It was Hatebreed, Terror, um, this band Premonitions of War, and No Warning's last tour. Um,
Oh, dang.
so it was probably I think that was '04. So I was 15,
Okay.
and that really changed everything for me, man. I mean, that was when I really was introduced to like real hardcore music. So instead of just this, the metalcore and stuff like that. So that was kind of when I was like, whoa, this is something. This is something else. This is the energy here is different, um, and that goes with all of a sudden there's like this community of people that all hang out with each other, and that uh, just the whole experience kind of wanted me to get more into that side of things. Um,
Totally. Nice. Okay. What when getting into guitar, how, what was that first guitar that you ended up picking up, kind of cutting your teeth on playing?
it's probably like a uh, the first stage of Les Paul, like an Epiphone Les Paul special or something.
Oh,
I
okay.
think I was
Okay.
just, dude, I was so broke. I didn't have anything, man. I was like working at like a Domino's or something. I had no money, man. I was going to tons of shows and spending all the money I made on shows. And so I was like, dude, I'll take anything I can get my hands on. So I uh, I think a Les Paul was like 150 bucks at Guitar Center, and that was it. That was probably it for me. And it was funny how fast it broke. It was such a piece of shit, but it
Oh
was
no.
but I was already trying to wheel and deal my music gear, the little music gear I had at the time. I was trying to sell some old little bass amps and some old basses and stuff like that, just to level up my guitars. And I think the first like decent one I had was shortly after that was one of those Epiphone SGs with the didn't
Oh,
have the
okay.
full
Yeah.
pick guard, it had the half guard.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
that was the one I really played a lot, like throughout the hardcore stuff. So
Okay. Okay. And I love, I know it's funny, kind of like looking back on those things, we've been talking on those things, but as far as, even for like younger musicians and hearing that, like when I'm first starting to play guitar, I want a Gibson Flying V. Like, dude, you got to learn on something, like even if it's something that's just the most
uh,
basic stuff, like if anything, you're going to get so frustrated that you're either going to be like, look, I have to, like keep on working at this and get better, or you're just going to not want to play and, end up ditching it and save out on spending grands on a guitar. It's like, I appreciate hearing those things, especially even like myself, like, getting into drums, locally, nobody was, had drummers, people weren't playing drums. So I was like, well, I'll do that. But then getting into it, it's like I made the wrong decision.
yeah. Dude,
Even a cheap
playing
kit
a
is a
flying
lot.
V is yeah. Playing a flying V as your first guitar is like impossible. I don't even know how you do that. Right. You're
Well,
sitting there
I was
just
just
like,
thinking of something like high, like higher end, or like something like, oh,
yeah,
I have to play something like Slayer does, or something
yeah.
where it's like you got to learn on the basics. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciated hearing that. Did you have like certain things that come to mind as far as certain tracks that you wanted to play when you started picking up guitar playing? Or playing all the way through? Were there kind of goals for you?
Yeah, I think, well, we were hardcore was happening pretty quick, so there was like negative approach songs that I think we were messing around with, and
Oh yeah.
it was just like punk songs, fast stuff that was easy. I think the first song I really like tried to play was like Seek and Destroy,
Oh
because
yeah. Okay.
it was just it's fun and easy, and you feel like you're head field immediately, and it's just cool. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Totally. Totally.
that one may be the cooler one, but yeah, or we were doing. I guess that was probably the beginning of that, because I guess the negative approach and stuff like that was a little after that. So
Sweet. Okay. Okay. Now, in my previous conversation talking with Blake, he mentioned Eddie Van Halen being the goat, the guitar goat. Who do you consider? Who is the one that's like just the top tier pedestal, favorite of yours? Maybe whether it's inspiration or just playing style in general.
yeah, I mean, it's hard to top Eddie Van Halen. I mean, he kind of covered everything as far as
Yeah.
rhythms and leads, and the kind of virtuoso style also. So it was that's a good one. I think
Hmm.
for me, I'm a rhythm player. I like to just keep it solid, and I think like Angus Young would probably be,
Oh
for
yeah.
my biggest influence as a rhythm player, as far as just the legends, and it'd be hard pressed to be able to name somebody better in that area as far as what I'm
Yeah.
playing. So, but
Yeah.
EVH
Touche.
is EVH is insane, and honorable mentions like Iommi. Obviously you gotta like say like Pete Townsend or Brian May, or
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
those guys are incredible musicians in their own right, and changed everything for rock and roll. So uh, and then I'm gonna biased opinion, the Edge. So
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you gotta stick to the roots. I appreciate
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
A couple hypotheticals. If LTD approached you today, for a new custom guitar, and they had asked you as far as something, that they were going to make a new custom guitar, and it was going to be based off of a favorite car or motorcycle. May it be the body, the color, the shape of it. What would you do with this? How would you make a new LTD that was a Nick Stewart custom? And what would this bad boy look like?
The Nick Stewart custom.
It's got a
It
ring.
would be like,
I'll say that.
yeah, yeah. It's two first names. It works. I'd
Yeah.
I- I'd say if it was like a guitar, like a car or something. I mean, dude, I'm like a Honda freak, so uh,
Okay.
it'd be a JDM Honda Civic. Everybody's gonna laugh at that or something. All white with red Honda logos. No, I would say for me, I've had this conversation before. But I'd had this conversation before with Tony at ESP, and I've always wanted like a Dallas Cowboys guitar. So
Oh yeah.
honestly,
Okay.
that's gonna happen someday, hopefully sooner than later. So we're gonna do
Sick.
something like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So stay tuned for that one.
Ah, sick. That's awesome. It was funny. Just as you were mentioning having Honda Civic, somebody mentioned in the comments that said Honda Civic, and they're like, "I told you."
Yeah, 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 yeah,
As you were
dude.
saying that, so yeah, touche. I love that. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I love them.
so
So
it would be the Dallas Stars. That would be the overall. That'd be the go-to then, and possibly something happening. So it rules.
yeah, yeah, we'll do a Cowboys guitar with the Super Bowl trophies, but then they stopped because we haven't been good in 30 years or something. So it'll be
Okay.
fretless. It'll be fretless halfway, and then Super Bowl trophies the first half.
Sick. That rules. That rules. So, as far as digging into your musical endeavors and different things, we don't have to be completely specific to the band or what it is. But your first show, how does that come about? You start. I know that you mentioned singing. What? I would assume that was your first show. Then was singing in a band. But what was the first show, and how did that go?
First show I ever played was singing.
Okay.
It was cool. It was like a bunch of friends from high school or something. Uh,
Okay.
and it was good energy. I'd say the playing guitar, the first show was complete and no one moving at all. It's just everyone standing just frozen solid.
Oh no.
So,
Oh
so,
no.
because it was, it was so back then it was kind of like, if you were able to be moshed to, then you would eventually become that, I guess, good enough for everyone. So
Yeah.
I guess
Okay.
I hadn't quite met their standard of the first show.
Oh no. I mean, but obviously, it may have inspired a little bit to keep on going and kind
Yeah.
of keep at it too. But those are make or break moments. You have some of those things. Sometimes it's like, are we gonna keep doing this, or are we gonna call this good for
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah, yeah. They were tough on you here, man.
Yeah.
It was really
Yeah.
tough on you, but it gave you a hunger to want to,
Totally.
ramp it up and get better and win everyone over, So I think,
Mm.
that stuff helped for sure.
Okay. Okay. Well, what about recording and being able to hold a physical copy of something that you were a part of for the first time? How did that come about?
Yeah, so um, I met Blake at I think I was 17, about to be 17 or something. Yeah, I think I was 17 years old. He was really young, but I met him in high school, and we quickly kind of joined up and started playing in the band that I had started, the hardcore band, and we recorded a little EP back then, and it being that it was the first time we'd ever done any recordings or anything like that, I'll never forget any of that stuff because it was just kind of
Okay.
like we had no idea what we were doing and just trying to put out some music physically. So it was a mess, but it was a lot of fun and a lot of memories for sure.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah,
And passing it out to some friends, and like trying to see or
yeah,
trying to gauge what their actual reaction is to it.
yeah. I spent a lot of time at Office Depot, and
Okay.
we tried to make as many CDs as we could. I think we made up like 50 or something, and tried to give them to everybody really fast. And I don't know.
Okay.
It's one of those. It's the very beginning of a lot of that stuff. So it's just kind of
Yeah.
I won't forget any of it. So.
Totally. Totally. What about traveling out of state or your first time doing like a small run of shows? How did that go? You go. Was there any mishaps? Was there any issues that maybe you weren't planned for? What comes to mind there?
Oh man. We our
Uh
first so yeah
oh.
the first tour we did was the first time I ever went out of state. Power Trip did our first tour. It was like '08 or '09. I think it was '09, and it was like us opening for Hatred Surge, Mammoth Grinder, and Iron Age, and so we were all huge fans of those guys, all those bands. They were huge influences on us. So it's just as Texas musicians. So um, it's funny. Ulsh's on that tour, and I don't even know him yet, and we're sleeping next to each other on the floor every night. So uh, yeah, that was a grind for us, man. I mean, we'd never gone out of town, and we bought a van really fast and drove straight to California. And like any band that starts a tour for the first time and never done it before, there's just immediate chaos probably amongst people in the van, and not knowing where you're going to sleep and not knowing if you have any money, and just and then everybody gets sick, and it's just the whole thing. So
A
it was
huge
funny because
collective.
yeah, it was funny because it was like 9 days, and it felt like 100 or something. But yeah, there's so many things that I could come up with for that. It would take all day, but just kind of
Okay.
just kind of everything you can think of, except the van didn't break down, it went wrong. So
Oh man, I mean, I guess thank God for that. That's a good start. But once again, kind of a moment that's a very testing trial, and I think it also says, a lot about the cats that you're around too, and the cats that are, that are in the band, and pushing through all that stuff and figuring everything out, and just pushing forward. That gives you a little bit of a better energy of like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're about. So yeah, testing,
Yeah,
but a good thing overall.
I do want to mention that it didn't all go wrong. I think people liked the show, so
Yeah. Okay.
we had a good reaction, so that was good. That was good for us, but the other things. So
Yeah, the foundation was laid there. It was just some of the
yeah,
off-screen things. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, exactly. So
What about a pre-show ritual, or just anything that comes to mind as far as getting out from early on through even recently playing something to help center yourself, whether you stretch, do exercises playing. What comes to mind there?
uh, I mean, typical stuff. I think stretching is important. I think early on you don't do that as much, and then you realize as you get a little older that things start hurting. You got to stretch. Definitely, a couple of us, we smoke a whole blunt for sure, and that's usually like right before, So
Okay,
that's
not a
it. I mean,
half.
that's it, man.
Got to be a whole.
Got a whole blunt, man. It's got to be the whole thing, the whole Rillo. So got to really that really. I don't know what it is about that, man, but it really locks some of us in. So that's a true that's a real deal, man. The weed
Okay.
smokers out there know. So
Okay, okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny. Every once in a while, you look back and maybe Ulster, one of the other cats isn't, quite on par. And it's like, man, you didn't hit that whole thing. I can tell. I know I
yeah,
know what's going on here.
yeah, yeah.
uh, all
Also
right, I'll
also
stop. That was
hitting
funny.
it, but
Okay. So, bringing us up to, Power Trip, and kind of talking on, some of this here, meeting Blake with, some of the previous bands, and, earlier on here, bringing you guys up to this, the '08 demo, how did that come about, initially, as far as, meeting the rest of the band, and, like first impressions, like I mentioned, knowing Blake, beforehand. Did you know the other guys before, or how did that come about?
yeah, me and Blake were obviously playing, and then right before that whole thing started, Wetzel had joined the hardcore band too. So there was
Oh,
three,
okay.
us three were already playing together at the end of that whole thing. So, um, but yeah, I mean, I think when we kind of were getting a little older at that time, it was like what we were doing was cool, but it was like there was you know, something more that we wanted, I think, as just fans of music and musicians too. But I think when we heard like I don't know how it happened. We heard Cro-Mag's Best Wishes at some point around 2000, late 2007, and Leeway, and it was like Desperate Measures, that crossover stuff, that New York crossover stuff, and
Yeah.
that was like, wait, what is this? It's like hardcore, but it's like metallic, and it's kind of that next step as far as getting closer to metal, I guess. And that was really what made everybody kind of hungry for that kind of sound. And you know, we were listening to it a lot, and we were going to shows a lot, and we were like, hey, we know we need Blake and this guy Mark Rubin, who is our original drummer. We're hanging out together a lot in
Oh.
high school, and Mark Rubin was a really good drummer, and
Mhm.
had some little home recording stuff in his house, and some uh, couple things. So I think they were always jamming a lot, and it got to the point where it's like, okay, we have the foundation of musicians here, so we need a vocalist, and that's kind of how Riley was playing in a really cool hardcore band that kind of was the biggest hardcore band in Dallas, I think, and he had a hell of a voice, and it attracted us to that, and that kind of set right here, plug in Riley, and then it was kind of took off from there. It was recording stuff in a bedroom a lot, and pretty much as soon as it was recorded, it was like, Blake and Mark are over here just playing all the time, writing stuff, and then it was like all of a sudden we were recording it, and then we're we're playing it right after we recorded it in the room next door, and then we're playing a show like 2 months, 3 months later. So it was really fast.
Dang. Okay. And within that time, was there something that comes to mind, like as far as like that first riff, or maybe even a first track, or was it just overall like the demo that kind of was presented, and it's like this is kind of the idea of what we have going here.
Yeah, I think I think it was kind of just it started happening, man. It was like we were listening to those bands. We were listening to a ton of bands. I mean, I was like Wikipediaing bands and just downloading. Like Soulseek was getting really popular, so
Okay.
you could seriously look a band up and go over and download the album in 5 seconds, and it was like that. We were just overloading ourselves with stuff, and but it was obviously the New York the crossover stuff, and like we found out through listening to Cro-Mag's Best Wishes and Leeway. Then you find out about the Icemen, and then we're listening to them, and it's like this is insane. And then we're listening to True Blue, and those bands, dude, like the Icemen, True Blue stuff was like, whoa, this is real shit right here. This is really something going on. So it was like that was a huge like influence really early on for us for sure. And that was kind of the kind of what we wanted to start with everything. I feel like so. I don't remember exactly what the original first riff was. You might want to ask Blake that one, but I definitely when we were playing like This World or something, that kind of
Okay.
Mark's coming in on the drums without anybody else playing, and it kind of just ramps up into the whole verse part. So that was what I
Nice.
remember originally the most. I feel like so.
Okay. Okay. And I guess technically later on, Opening Fire comes out, but that's a collaboration of the earlier works from that earlier demo through EPs and different things. That compilation, what's a favorite track of yours on that, and maybe something that you guys hadn't played all that much that you wish that you had, or that you wished you played more.
Well, I think the only song we never played was the cover. I think it was Brainwave. We
Oh,
we
okay.
never we never played that, but we actually like rehearsed it a lot. We were gonna play it at some point, and it just never happened. So I guess that
Okay.
was the only one as far as in on the compilation. But as far as all the songs we wrote, that were our songs. That nah,
Hmm.
we played all of them. But Divine Apprehension, I feel like for me was the song that I really loved the most because honestly, I think that's maybe my favorite song we ever wrote. I don't know. It was
Oh,
just
okay.
kind of that era where we started finding out what we really wanted to be, and that I think that song for me anyway was kind of a model for like what direction we wanted to go in as we were maturing as a band, and just kind of like ultimately the sound we wanted to go for. I think so. That was my favorite song on that one, but.
Okay. Okay.
And it's just
Well,
heavy, man. I mean, the end is like, you kidding me?
yeah.
I wanna throw my guitar off and just dive in the pit, So
I mean, why not?
yeah, I mean, why not? One day maybe we'll see.
Touche. And so 2013, Manifest Decimation. Obviously, there was some tracks that were previously released and kind of reworked, re-recorded. But that era of the band and maybe some of the runs or working on the album. What comes to mind as far as memories or maybe something that pops in your head within working on that album or touring on it.
Man, that was such a wild time, man. I don't even. It's a blur. It's a total blur. I I think some of us were working a lot still because we couldn't quite get away from that and do the band full time. So there was a lot of scabs and stuff that were kind of people plugging in different tours and stuff. So I think that was the moment where we were like, are we gonna do this like legit or are we just gonna fuck around? So it was
Mm.
everybody was kind of figuring themselves out at that time, I think, and there was a lot of different lineups in and out as far as people coming in and playing and going. So um, just an interesting time to say the least. But ultimately, that record came out and it changed our lives. I mean, it changed our lives later on in that record cycle, I think, but like that was where, the respect for our band, I think, from everyone really started to come into play, from a
Oh,
larger
okay.
audience. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, the record itself is amazing. And, I think it helped us obviously get to this point, and, it, you know, it's incredible how it happened because it was such a just a chaotic time for all of us. I think as far as trying to figure out, what path we wanted to go on. So,
Sure. Okay.
but
And
yeah,
so with the release though, you started seeing like even bigger shows, or were you guys already doing like fests and different things like that prior to this, or was this where like that type of showcase started really like pumping?
we were doing like a lot of hardcore tours with bands. I think we were doing stuff like Alpha and Omega, and um,
Oh yeah, they
there
rule.
was like, yeah, man. I mean, those guys I still know, man. So like, they're great people.
Yeah.
I think we were just doing a lot of hardcore stuff, dude. We were touring with like Downpresser and a lot of bands that were, California bands for sure, because the California scene was doing that kind of crossover sound too in their own way. So, it kind of worked to kind of do some shows with those kinds of bands. So we were doing a lot of that, up to that point. And then I think the Blake and Riley went to Europe, on the Manifest record, and that was the first
Mm.
time that the band had gone to Europe. So they went, and I think they did it with Bane or something. So I mean, we were still doing a lot of hardcore tours at that time, and, um, I think the metal tours and the bigger shows like that came later on for sure. But
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
I
Um.
think there's
Uh,
there's some stuff. I think we did like we later on did a European run, as the actual band, and I think it was a headliners. So we were just kind of grinding, man. We were just doing
yeah.
our own tours a lot. So
Yeah. Okay. I mean, and with doing like the hardcore shows and maybe even like the long runs as far as like tours, was there a point where you saw like a friction as far as audience? Like for the longest, it seemed like there was that thing where it was like there was hardcore kids and metal, and like it didn't mesh, and then there was kind of like a moment where like kids were coming together, and especially like right now, it's a little bit more like that, but. Did you guys have a moment as far as when you were playing a lot more with like hardcore bands and audiences kind of feeling like, what is this? What's going on here?
yeah, and it was so polarizing back then. It was just like,
Hmm.
um, you could do one or the other. It seemed like I don't know what exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know when exactly it meshed. I don't. I know for us as a band, in Dallas, we would have these big local Dallas shows, and for us, like as I can remember, like that was we were kind of trying to create that in our at our local scene and bring punks, hardcore kids, metalheads together by just kind of
Yeah.
mashing up different bills with different kinds of bands. So we had like, uh, we saw that happen, um, these little mini fests we put on and stuff in Dallas, early on. I think we started seeing that like right after Manifest came out at
Hmm.
home, but I don't know about when exactly it started, uh, on tour per se. Maybe like maybe like at a This Is Hardcore or something like that. You could start to see it when we would play those shows because people were like they really liked it, but they didn't know what it was or they didn't know what to do. So I think eventually it was just kind of like, hey, quit fucking standing there and just do a circle pit. Anybody can do a circle pit. You don't have to be any
Yeah.
genre to do that. So just do
Right.
that,
Right.
and that's kind of like it started happening when that was like, oh, we can all do that,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just funny.
If
I don't know a
anything,
specific time, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if anything, appreciate the fact that it's not, like the crowd killing going on the whole
yeah,
show, and like go
yeah,
around, get some exercise, maybe do some push-ups, and have fun.
Yeah, yeah. I don't quite get the whole just kill everybody thing, but just
I
don't
don't.
stand there if you don't want to get hit, I guess. So,
Right, 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 right.
but yeah, just do a circle pit, man. I mean, I think that's the universal thing. So, I
Yeah,
think
I love
that
it. I
happened a
love it.
little later on. We had more of that stuff. So,
Okay. And then last up or most recently, I should say, Nightmare Logic. With that record coming out, what would you say off the top of your head are the three favorite riffs that came out of that, or even if you want to say tracks, songs, what are your favorite things that came off of that record?
well, obviously for us, I mean, Executioner's Tax was the biggest thing ever. So for us as a band,
Hmm.
it really, I think, catapulted us. So, I'd say the chorus of that song, that riff,
Oh, okay.
I'd say, have to put that in there. Um, like the break and waiting around to die at the end is
Hmm.
probably up there for me. And uh, maybe like the end riff, like the jam part on "If Not Us Then Who," like the very end that we kind of just fade
Okay.
out on.
Yeah, yeah.
The reason for that is when the record was getting written, Blake and Ulsh were obviously working on that quite a bit, but there was a day or two where Blake was gone and me and Ulsh was staying with me, so we actually went and kind of did some jamming of our own and tried to come up with some stuff, and we ended up like throwing together a little couple songs, and that end part ends up being part of one of those songs that we were jamming. So I kind of have some personal uh, love for that part. So
Okay. Okay. Nice. And I mean, mentioning waiting around to die too. What the voice recordings or whatever's playing at the end of that track? What is that? Or,
yeah, so actually it was, I don't know. Uh,
perfect.
Blake, no one knows. No one knows. I think maybe Arthur knows. And I meant to text him last night because I was like, hey, I need to figure this out. But yeah, I didn't get around to it. Mavs
Perfect.
lost, and I was like, well, fuck this. I'm going to sleep. So uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so no, I don't. No one knows. I'm gonna get back to you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, just listening to it again, I was like, kind of hearing that, and I'm like, what the hell is
I
this?
think I think there's. I mean, it's obviously a clip from like a movie or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know
Okay.
what, but I think that he's like distorting the voice and kind of making this like wah effect on it to make it have that kind of that. I don't know. It's weird, but it's kind of like a tape that's getting warped or something, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
it's something. I
Okay.
don't know. We'll find out. I'll let you know.
Okay. I can maybe edit it in and make a little mention here in the video when I edit it too. But yeah, yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
that's funny. I mean, that actually almost is a better answer, and I appreciate that. And maybe I'll just leave it like that because it just adds to the mystery of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll never look it up. We'll just leave it at that.
What about so you guys jam with Obituary, which is insane, is mind blowing. I mean, as a fan of metal, death, thrash, anything, is something awesome, and I mean a really cool opportunity for you guys. How does that come about? Where did the conversation start? And get to that point.
Yeah. Well, Obituary took us out. Them and Exodus took us out in 2017 on the Battle of the Bays tour, and we quickly became really good friends with them, both bands, and by the end of that tour, it was like, hey, these are like, I feel like this is like family to us, so.
Okay.
Um, I think when it was boring and everybody couldn't do anything, and I think Ken, the new lead guitar player, reached out to Blake, and I think that's how it happened. He was like, "Hey man, you guys should come out here and hang out for this thing we're doing, and we're doing like a live stream." And then he was like, I think it was like, "Or let's just fucking play a song or something," and we were like. I was like, dude, let's do this. We gotta go, So it was quick. I mean, it was like they're just really good friends of ours, man. So it didn't. It
Okay.
doesn't. as much as we're huge fans, we're like, this band's insane. Obviously one of the heaviest bands, if not the heaviest band in the world. We're ultimately really close with them as friends. So it was like, hey, let's go hang out with our friends and fucking get drunk and play some songs, and hang out. So that's what happened, man. And then I think as we got closer to that, it was like, hey, why don't we do you can play one of our songs and then we can play one of your songs. And we were like, fuck, yeah,
Oh, okay.
whatever, let's do everything. Who cares? So
Sick.
that's how it happened, man. I think we did By the Light. Me and Blake played By the Light, and I think and then we obviously Executioner's Text with the Tardies, which is just like, fuck. Those dudes are like over here jamming our shit. We practiced it the day before, and they're over here jamming our shit. And I'm just like, this is hilarious. Who would have thought? I'm like, that one day this would be happening. So it was a really special moment for me and Blake and the band as well. Just being able to kind of go out there and get on the live stream and let people see that we're having fun playing and stuff still. So
Right.
yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. And those guys are the best. So I appreciate them for letting us be a part of that.
That's so cool. And by no means, I mean, it didn't feel like it was commissioned or it was something where it was like, oh, we have to do this for VH1 that's, paying us to come together. I think, I mean, it definitely, even for what I saw, I didn't see the track. Did they post a track that you guys played of theirs?
Yeah, I think it's in there's a video stream that got ripped to YouTube or something maybe. So
Okay.
I think you can find it.
Check that out.
Yeah. So you can find it out there for sure. But yeah, no, I mean the whole thing was very just. It was. I mean, we acted walking in obviously, but man, it was like basically exactly what you thought. We were just hanging out, drinking Budweiser, and playing music. So
was it the only two tracks that you played?
Yeah. We watched them, so they did a bunch of stuff. I think they may have done Incomplete in its entirety in that one, or maybe it was Slowly Rot. I can't remember which one. I think it was Slowly Rot, actually. They think they played that, and then we made it work later, like somewhere later in the set list. We kind of jumped in and played, so... yeah, it was just sick because we were sitting here watching them play that, and we're like, it's one of the greatest death metal records ever, and then, oh, we're gonna play too. This is crazy. So it was fun, man.
It's awesome. That's awesome. That's so cool. Before we wrap here, I have one last thing. You had mentioned a movie. You mentioned a horror movie, and of course, myself being the fan. But you had mentioned something that I have never, and I actually have on my slate. I'm going to be watching tonight. So before I watch it, I wanted to get your first. I intended watching it last night and didn't end up panning out, but I'm watching it tonight, and I wanted to get your official review, your how it came to you. So we have. Well, you tell us what's the movie that you're going to be talking about here.
This is an incredible film. This is a movie, Demon Child 666. So the title off the bat is, you have to watch it, right? It's incredible. It's high budget, so just be ready for that. I mean, a lot of special effects, a lot of stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, no, it's just it's like if Troma like cut their budget to a quarter for the horror fan, the real horror fan,
Oh
So
my god.
think like the budget for Toxic Avenger like completely cut to nothing. So and it's already like pretty insane. So it's a hilarious movie, man. I think it's basically about a group of scientists find like a couple eggs and in the woods that an old man drops off somewhere at the beginning of the movie, and it's like a 10-minute scene of him just walking up a mountain. And you're like, God, is this gonna end? But it's like it almost gets funny because it's so drawn out, and then basically these scientists find this egg, and they bring it on the an RV that they're driving around, and this thing just hatches and just fucking just kills everybody. So, but it's so much more than that. You know, you have to watch it. It's the cinematography that I love the most. So,
Oh my God.
there's a
What?
specific. I'll say one thing. One thing. There's a specific
Okay.
scene where It's when they're driving the RV, and it's just showing like the RV moving in the desert, and it's the same scene, and they just keep playing it like with the RV, and you're like, that's the same fucking scene over and over, and it's incredible. It's just
Oh my
yeah. So
God.
just get ready for it.
Oh man, it kind of like in Trauma when they have that same car flip that they use
Oh yeah, the
throughout
same
different
one.
movies.
Yeah, yeah,
That is
and
amazing. What about the effects? What can you tell us about, the professionalism there? Is it CGI? Is it practical? Is it believable? I'm gonna take it as.
the CGI. It's no,
Oh
it's
no.
not believable. It's not. But that's why it's so good. It's so good because it's so bad. So if you're into like just like bad movies that because they're so bad and that become funny and actually entertaining, then this is the movie for you. So, uh,
Okay.
but
Along
one
the
note
lines of
I'll
like a
say,
Troll 2.
it's Troll. It's Troll for sure. It's worse, but it's good. It's great.
Okay.
But just because you're a horror buff, realistic, like real talk. One of my favorite horror movies, and this is a hot take, is Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. Um,
Oh, really?
that is an underrated movie, and it's terrifying. I feel like it's the scariest version of Michael Myers that amongst the whole line of the Halloweens, and I think he's just so I don't know. I think he's so realistic, and they throw this kind of uh, huge witchcraft thing into that movie, and I liked that a lot. And also, I think Man in the Box plays right out the gate, and it's Paul Rudd's first film he ever
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay.
So a
I
lot of
mean,
good stuff.
all of those things are absolutely true. It's been a while since I've watched it. I have all of them, and I'll have to go back. I recently got like a Blu-ray box set of all the Halloweens. I was working on them through last October, but I'll have to pull that
Yeah,
one out
yeah,
again. I remember liking it. Out of the sequels, I feel like that was like that and like H2O or like my
yeah.
my favorites, other than the first two. But yeah, I mean, I know definitely they just recently like redid an edition that might even have like extra footage that they never released and all that. But
Oh,
dang, okay,
I'll have
Halloween
to check
4,
that out.
okay, sick, that rules.
That's a good one,
Was
man.
it now when you were younger? Did you have a bunch of movies that were introduced to you, or was horror like you mentioned Trauma, so that kind of like ticks off a little bit in my brain as far as like some more than just watching basic like movies around Halloween. How does that come to mind?
Yeah, I was in the when I was a young kid, my mom was actually like really, she was a big kind of horror film fanatic, I think, without even knowing it, because I feel like every time it was late, she was watching like Friday the 13th or one of these horror movies. So she was always letting me watch them. So I was like 7 years old watching like Leprechaun and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Streets uh, and a lot of even like kind of like niche stuff. I'm trying to think like some old night. It's like a lot of the '90s horror, like the early '90s stuff, Phantasms and uh, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know horror. Bram Stoker's Dracula. That wasn't like always like some complete horror, but there was just a lot of like that stuff that I was watching at a really young age, and I think I've always kind of stayed into horror since. But I had roommates later on that were just VHS like freaks, probably like yourself,
Okay.
and just got me into kind of the more niche horror stuff. So
Okay. Was there anything that you ever had to turn off? You couldn't finish it, or you just didn't want to sit through any more of it?
yeah, probably either like probably either like Antichrist or like a Serbian film. I was like,
Oof.
whoa,
I can't do
those
it.
are. uh,
I've heard of it, and I've heard the things that make it, what it is, and I'm just like I have no interest. I can't even start.
it, it's it's something, man. I mean, the first 5 minutes are in like, if you get past that, it's crazy. So uh,
Ugh.
it is wild movie for sure. So if people have seen that and they've watched the whole thing, you are a freak.
Yeah, I've certainly, done enough research where like that's always been a movie where it's like, I don't need to buy it. I don't need to have it in my
Yeah,
collection if it's
I have it
rare or
actually, but I
collectible.
don't
Or
know why.
do you really?
Yeah, I
Holy
do. I
moly,
do. I don't
man.
watch it, but I have it. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, and even if with like you were mentioning, like Antichrist, like his newest movie, I don't know if you've seen any of his other stuff, but he did a movie called The House That Jack Built, and there's
I
some
haven't.
stuff in that movie is intense.
I have a. I know about this movie. I've not seen it. I need to watch it, but I've heard it's pretty wild for sure.
It's rough, for
Yeah, I
sure.
mean,
I
it's you know, you're
don't know
doing
about
movies like
Serbian
that.
film, but yeah.
That's next. That's the highest level of rough. So.
All right, dude, this has been absolutely so sick. I'm glad that we got to touch a little bit even on horror, and
Love to.
this
I'd
has
love
been
to. This is
absolutely
cool.
awesome.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.